Imagine walking into a crowded room where every person can see your deepest thoughts, your unedited plans, and your rawest vulnerabilities. It feels uncomfortable, almost dangerous, because you have instantly lost your edge and your protection. In our modern world, we are constantly encouraged to share, broadcast, and reveal every single detail of our lives. We post our meals, our heartbreaks, our achievements, and our sudden inspirations the very moment they occur. We have come to believe that if a tree falls in the forest and no one likes the post, it did not happen. Yet, there is a quiet, immense power in restraint. True strength does not announce itself with a megaphone. It operates in the shadows, growing steadily and surely without the need for external validation. When you keep certain aspects of your life entirely to yourself, you build a fortress around your peace of mind. You create a sacred space where your goals can mature without the toxic influence of jealousy, doubt, or premature criticism. Privacy is not about hiding things because you are ashamed. Privacy is about protecting things because they are valuable to you. This is an exploration of the elements of your life that demand absolute discretion, a guide to reclaiming your personal power through the art of strategic silence. Your biggest goals and grandest ambitions are delicate entities when they are first conceived. They are like tiny sparks that need shelter from the wind to grow into a roaring fire. The moment you share a major plan with someone else, you subject that fragile spark to their unique perspective, their personal fears, and their individual limitations. People often project their own failures onto your potential. When you tell someone you want to start a business, change your career, or achieve a difficult physical feat, their immediate reaction is filtered through what they believe is possible for themselves. If they could not do it, or if they were too afraid to try, they will unconsciously look for flaws in your logic. They might offer unsolicited advice, disguised as friendly concern, pointing out all the reasons why your idea will fail. This subtle negativity acts like water on your spark. Even if you consider yourself a resilient person, these tiny seeds of doubt can take root in your subconscious mind. You might find yourself hesitating when you should be moving forward, or overthinking a step that originally felt completely natural to you. In essence, your brain mistakes the act of talking about the goal for the actual completion of the goal. You receive a premature reward. You feel a sense of satisfaction and pride simply because you announced your intentions to an appreciative audience. This psychological trick drains your actual motivation. The deep hunger and drive required to do the grueling, day-to-day work vanishes because you have already enjoyed the social validation. The silence that follows a hidden goal is where real momentum is generated. When you keep your plans to yourself, the energy that would have been wasted on talking is compressed and channeled entirely into action. You become a person who simply produces results, rather than a person who promises them. Let your success be your noise. Let the reality of your achievements speak for itself when it is fully formed and impossible to deny. Beyond your future ambitions, the intricate details of your financial life require a deep commitment to silence. Money alters human dynamics faster and more profoundly than almost anything else. Whether you have an abundance of wealth or are navigating a season of scarcity, Sharing the exact numbers of your income, savings, or debts invites unnecessary complications. If you reveal that you are doing exceptionally well, the perception people have of you shifts almost instantly. Conversations change, and an invisible layer of judgment settles over your relationships. Friends and family may begin to look at you as a safety net rather than a peer. They might expect you to cover the bill, lend money without expectation of return, or validate their own financial choices. Resentment can brew silently when people assume your life is easy simply because your bank account is full. Conversely, if you are struggling and choose to broadcast your financial hardships, you invite a different kind of trouble. You may find yourself receiving pity instead of genuine support. Or worse, you might find that people begin to value your opinions less because they equate financial status with personal wisdom. Keeping your financial status private ensures that your relationships remain based on who you are, not what you have. It protects you from the subtle shifts in power that wealth, or the lack thereof, inevitably brings into the room. Are you sharing the story to inspire others, or are you sharing it to elevate your own social standing? In the digital age, we frequently see people filming themselves giving food to the homeless or talking extensively about their volunteer work. While the material benefit to the recipient remains the same, the spiritual value of the act is cheapened for the giver. It transforms a genuine moment of connection into a currency for public approval. When you do something kind for someone, keep that moment locked away as a quiet treasure in your heart. The satisfaction should come entirely from knowing you made the world a little brighter for someone else, not from the applause of onlookers. Strategic silence surrounding your good deeds preserves your humility. It keeps your ego in check and ensures that your kindness remains a genuine expression of your character, rather than a calculated public relations move. Lifestyle choices and personal philosophies are another area where silence serves as a powerful shield. In your journey through life, you will adopt certain habits, dietary choices, spiritual beliefs, or daily routines that completely transform your well-being. It is natural to feel a rush of enthusiasm when you discover something that works for you, whether it is a new meditation practice, a minimal way of living, or a specific way of taking care of your body. However, there is a fine line between living by example and proselytizing. When you loudly defend your lifestyle or try to convince everyone around you to adopt your new habits, you create friction. People naturally resist being told how to live. They view your enthusiasm as an implicit criticism of their own choices. If you tell everyone how early you wake up or how clean your diet is, they will instinctively look for moments when you slip up. They will watch you closely, waiting for the day you sleep in or make a poor choice, just so they can point out your inconsistency. By keeping your personal disciplines to yourself, you remove the burden of public expectation. You are free to experiment, fail, adapt, and grow without the pressure of an audience judging your progress. Your lifestyle should be lived quietly, allowing its positive fruits to speak for themselves. The deep complexities of your family dynamics and domestic life must also be guarded with fierce loyalty. Every household has its unique challenges, disagreements, and historical wounds. No relationship is entirely smooth, and no family is perfectly harmonious. When you take the internal conflicts of your home and air them out in public, You commit an act of betrayal against the people who should be closest to you. Telling friends, colleagues, or acquaintances about the arguments you have with your partner or the shortcomings of your relatives creates a narrative that you cannot control. Long after you have forgiven your partner or resolved the issue with your family member, the person you vented to will still remember the negative details you shared. They will view your loved ones through a distorted lens of your momentary anger. Furthermore, sharing these intimate details leaves your home vulnerable to outside judgment and unsolicited interference. A home should be a sanctuary, a place where people can make mistakes and resolve them safely within the walls of mutual trust. When you open the door to outside opinions, you break that trust, making it much harder to find genuine resolution and healing. We have all been wronged, betrayed, or treated unfairly at some point in our lives. It is incredibly tempting to carry those stories forward, like a badge of honor, reminding everyone we meet of how much we have suffered. However, constantly recounting past injuries does not heal them. It keeps them alive, breathing fresh oxygen into embers that should have died out long ago. When you repeatedly tell the story of how someone hurt you, you are forcing your current listeners to take a side in a conflict they had nothing to do with. You also run the risk of being perceived as someone who is stuck in the past, unable to move beyond victimhood. More importantly, you give the person who wronged you continued power over your present life. By remaining silent about past betrayals, you refuse to let them define your current identity. You choose to process the pain privately, learn the necessary lessons, and move forward into the future, unburdened by the weight of old animosities. When you openly share your deepest insecurities, your phobias, or the things that keep you awake at night, you are handed a map of your emotional vulnerabilities to anyone who happens to be listening. While many people will hear your fears with empathy, others may use that information maliciously. In moments of conflict, a toxic individual will not hesitate to weaponize your admitted weaknesses against you. They will know exactly where to strike to cause the maximum amount of emotional damage. Guarding your vulnerabilities is not a sign of weakness or fear. It is a sign of high emotional intelligence and self-preservation. It means you understand that your inner world is a private garden, and you are selective about who you invite inside to walk along its pathways. A partnership between two people is a delicate ecosystem built on shared secrets, private jokes, vulnerability, and mutual understanding. When you expose the private moments of your relationship to the public eye, you disrupt that fragile ecosystem. This includes both the positive and the negative aspects of your bond. Sharing the explicit details of your intimacy or the deep personal struggles your partner is facing is a breach of the unspoken contract of trust. It invites outsiders into a space that was meant for two. Even sharing too much about how blissfully happy you are can inadvertently invite envy or create unrealistic expectations from those around you. The most profound connections thrive in the quiet spaces between two people, away from the glare of social validation and the commentary of onlookers. By keeping your relationship private, you honor your partner and protect the sacred bond you are building together. Your financial mistakes and past failures are also topics that benefit immensely from your silence. Every successful person has a trail of missteps, poor investments, failed projects, and embarrassing blunders behind them. These failures are essential learning tools, the raw material from which wisdom is forged. However, there is very little value in continuously broadcasting your past mistakes to the world. When you repeatedly talk about your past failures, you can inadvertently condition people to view you as someone who is prone to making mistakes. They may hesitate to trust you with new responsibilities, partnerships, or financial opportunities because your past errors are foremost in their minds. Your past does not equal your future, but people will often use your past to predict your future behavior if you keep reminding them of it. Process your failures quietly, extract the wisdom, adjust your strategy, and present yourself to the world as the person you are today, shaped by your experiences, but not shackled to them. However, speaking these negative judgments aloud rarely serves a constructive purpose. When you gossip or criticize someone behind their back, you reveal far more about your own character than you do about the person you are criticizing. The listeners will wonder what you say about them when they are not in the room. Gossip creates a toxic atmosphere, draining your energy and lowering the quality of your conversations. It binds you to a negative frequency. If you have a legitimate issue with someone, the most mature course of action is to address it with them directly, or to simply distance yourself quietly. Broadly broadcasting your distaste for someone else only diminishes your own stature and invites unnecessary drama into your life. There is a distinct charm and power in letting people discover what you are capable of naturally over time. When you feel the need to constantly list your achievements, your credentials, or the skills you possess, it often stems from a place of insecurity, a desperate desire to be seen and validated. True competence is quiet. When you allow your abilities to remain hidden until the precise moment they are needed, the impact of their revelation is multiplied tenfold. Imagine being in a situation where a specific problem arises, and without any prior boasting, you quietly step forward and resolve it using a skill no one knew you possessed. This creates an impression of depth and resourcefulness that no amount of self-promotion could ever match. It shows that you are a person of substance, someone who possesses hidden layers waiting to be discovered, rather than someone who displays all their goods in the front window. Living a life of strategic silence requires a conscious shift in how you view communication. It means recognizing that every word you speak has a cost and an impact. It requires you to pause before you speak and ask yourself why you are about to share a specific piece of information. Are you sharing to connect, or are you sharing to impress? Are you seeking genuine support, or are you looking for a quick hit of validation? When you begin to practice this restraint, you will notice a profound shift in your internal energy. You will feel more grounded, more centered, and less dependent on the fluctuating opinions of the world around you. You reclaim ownership of your life story, choosing carefully which chapters are open to the public and which chapters remain yours alone. This is not about building walls to isolate yourself from humanity. It is about setting healthy, intentional boundaries that allow you to grow in peace and strength. When you master the art of silence, you protect your energy from being scattered in 1,000 different directions. You keep your focus sharp, your intentions pure, and your personal power intact. The world does not need to know everything about you to respect you. In fact, it is often the things they do not know that create the deepest sense of respect and intrigue. By keeping these critical areas of your life private, you cultivate an inner sanctuary that remains untouched by the chaos of the external world. When you sit in a meeting, a social gathering, or a family dinner, practice the habit of listening more than you speak. Observe the dynamics around you. Notice how frequently people share information they will later regret, simply to fill a silence or to gain a momentary advantage in a conversation. By choosing a different path, you set yourself apart. You become a steady, reliable presence in a noisy world. Your words carry more weight when they are spoken because people know you do not waste them on trivialities or premature revelations. You learn to listen to your own intuition and follow your own moral compass, free from the distorting influence of public opinion. This internal alignment is the foundation of true emotional resilience. It allows you to stand firm in your purpose, even when the world around you is chaotic or critical. You become the author of your own life, writing the script in alignment with your deepest values rather than the expectations of an audience. Let us consider the profound impact of this silence on your creative and professional endeavors. When you are working on a new project, a piece of art, or a business concept, the initial creative process is deeply sensitive. It requires a space free from judgment, where you can make mistakes, pivot, and explore unusual ideas. If you introduce outside opinions too early, you risk killing the project before it has a chance to take shape. Someone might point out a practical flaw that causes you to abandon a brilliant, innovative idea prematurely. By keeping your work under wraps until it reaches a certain level of maturity, you allow it to develop its own internal logic and strength. You give yourself the room to become an expert on your own creation before you subject it to the harsh light of public scrutiny. As you grow older, your perception of the world will change. You will re-examine old beliefs, adopt new perspectives, and discard philosophies that no longer serve you. This inner transformation can be messy and non-linear. If you feel compelled to explain your changing worldview to everyone you meet, you will find yourself constantly defending positions you are still trying to understand yourself. You might feel trapped by your past statements, hesitating to embrace a new truth because it contradicts something you said publicly a year ago. Silence grants you the absolute freedom to change your mind. It allows you to evolve quietly, testing new ideas within the laboratory of your own mind before you declare them to the world. Once they know your story, your background, and your past struggles, they tend to lock you into a specific mental box. They interpret your current actions through the lens of who you used to be. By maintaining a degree of mystery about your past, you prevent people from defining you by your history. You retain the element of surprise. You allow them to meet the person you are today, without the baggage of who you were 10 years ago. This creates a clean slate for your interactions, allowing for fresher, more authentic connections based entirely on the present moment. When you consciously step back and decide that large portions of your life are simply not up for public consumption, a profound sense of relief washes over you. You are no longer performing for an audience. You are simply living your life for yourself and the people who truly matter to you. The frantic urge to capture every moment on camera or describe every thought in a status update fades away, replaced by a deep, grounded presence in the actual reality of your life. Consider the dignity that comes with keeping your personal grievances private. When someone treats you unfairly or a relationship ends painfully, the natural impulse is to seek validation by telling your side of the story to anyone who will listen. You want people to know you were right and the other person was wrong. However, this public venting often has the opposite effect. It keeps you tied to the negativity of the situation and drags your listeners into a drama they did not ask to be part of. When you choose to handle your grievances quietly, through direct communication with the person involved or through private reflection, you maintain your dignity. You show that you are a person of character who does not need to destroy someone else's reputation to protect your own. People are naturally drawn to those who possess a sense of mystery and self-containment. When you do not lay all your cards on the table immediately, you invite people to look closer, to listen more carefully, and to value the pieces of yourself that you do choose to share. It creates a natural filter for your relationships. Those who are superficial or looking for quick gossip will quickly lose interest and drift away, while those who value depth, substance, and genuine character will be drawn to your steady energy. You begin to attract people who respect boundaries because they possess boundaries of their own. It does not make a sound as it breaks open, sends its roots deep into the soil, and begins its slow, steady journey upward toward the light. All of this essential development happens entirely out of sight, in total darkness and silence. If you were to dig up the seed every few days to check on its progress or show it to your neighbors, you would destroy its ability to grow. Your personal development follows this exact same natural law. The deep internal shifts, the building of new habits, the healing of old wounds, and the strengthening of your character require a period of incubation. They need to happen in the quiet dark of your private life, undisturbed by external expectations, until they are strong enough to withstand the elements. It is very easy to fall into the habit of talking about the good things we intend to do, or the strict routines we are following, because it gives us an immediate reputational boost. We want to be seen as disciplined, enlightened, or hardworking, but the moment we brag about our early morning workouts, our fasting schedules, or our reading habits, we shift our focus from the intrinsic value of the habit to the external reward of praise. The habit becomes a performance. If the praise stops, or if people do not seem impressed, our motivation to maintain the habit often plummets. When you keep your disciplines hidden, you ensure that you are doing them for the right reasons, for your own growth and well-being, not for the applause of an audience. When you have a brilliant concept for a business, a book, a product, or an optimization in your workplace, your natural excitement might tempt you to discuss it openly with colleagues or peers. However, ideas are easy to steal and difficult to protect when they are just concepts. By speaking about your ideas before you have taken concrete steps to implement or secure them, you leave yourself vulnerable to having your intellectual labor co-opted by someone who is more aggressive or better positioned to execute it quickly. Keep your brilliant ideas close to your chest. Work on them quietly, behind the scenes. Develop the prototype, Write the proposal or build the foundation before you present it to the world. Protect your creative genius through the shield of absolute discretion. Sharing details of a legal disagreement, an ongoing contract negotiation, or a dispute with an employer on social media or in casual conversation can jeopardize your position. It can be seen as a breach of confidentiality, or it can provide the opposing party with insight into your strategy and emotional state. When navigating these formal situations, rely strictly on professionals and keep your personal commentary entirely non-existent. Allow the official processes to unfold without the added complication of public opinion or casual speculation. However, constantly voicing these minor preferences and complaints can make you appear difficult, negative, or narrow-minded. It creates a subtle barrier between you and the people around you. When you learn to overlook minor annoyances silently and adapt to different environments without complaining, you develop a reputation for being resilient, easygoing, and pleasant to be around. You conserve your emotional energy for things that truly matter, rather than wasting it on a constant stream of petty complaints. If you begin to repeat the compliments you have received to others, or if you constantly direct the conversation back to your recent success, you cross the line into arrogance. Silence in the face of praise shows a profound level of security. It means you accept the compliment graciously, thank the person sincerely, and then quietly return to your work. You do not need to carry the trophy around the room for the rest of the evening to prove your worth. Your excellence is already established. Your silence simply adds a layer of grace and humility to your achievement. When you keep your life private, you cut those strings. You gain the freedom to move through the world lightly, to change your direction without having to explain yourself, and to live authentically according to your own rules. You are no longer bound by the public persona you have created. You retain the power to reinvent yourself whenever you see fit, because your true identity remains safely guarded within your own heart. As you move forward from this moment, look at your life through the lens of this strategic discretion. Look at the areas where you have been oversharing, where you have been seeking quick validation at the expense of your long-term power. Begin to pull back the curtain quietly. Choose to keep your grandest plans, your deep vulnerabilities, your domestic challenges, and your quiet acts of kindness entirely to yourself. Notice how the atmosphere around you begins to clear. Notice how your focus sharpens and your internal strength intensifies when you stop scattering your energy to the wind. When you embrace this way of living, you discover that the most powerful version of yourself is not the one that speaks the loudest, but the one that knows exactly when to remain silent. You build an unshakable foundation that can withstand any external storm, because your source of strength is internal, protected, and entirely your own. In a world that cannot stop talking, your silence becomes your greatest asset, your most profound statement, and your ultimate source of strength. Walk forward with your head held high, your mind clear, and your most valuable treasures kept safely locked away in the quiet sanctuary of your soul. In any workplace or professional industry, there is a natural undercurrent of competition. When you openly discuss your next career move, the promotion you are targeting, or your plans to pivot into a new field, you inadvertently tip your hand to those who might be competing for the same opportunities. You give potential rivals the time and information they need to adjust their own strategies, counter your moves, or quietly undermine your efforts. It is a common mistake to assume that everyone you work with rejoices in your ambition. In reality, your drive can hold up a mirror to their own stagnation, triggering a subconscious desire to see you falter. By choosing to keep your professional maneuvers completely confidential, you maintain the critical element of surprise. You allow your advancement to manifest as an accomplished fact, rather than an ongoing debate. Stepping into your new roles with a clean, undisputed authority that commands immediate respect. Sharing your unfiltered thoughts about company policies, executive decisions, or management styles with your peers is a high-risk behavior that yields no tangible benefit. Casual workplace complaints have a strange way of traveling through the grapevine, mutating along the way into something far more damaging than originally intended. When your private critiques reach the ears of leadership, they are rarely viewed as constructive feedback. Instead, they are perceived as a lack of loyalty or a sign of a disruptive attitude. If you have a genuine, actionable solution to a corporate challenge, present it through the appropriate, formal channels with professional poise. Otherwise, guard your observations with strict silence. Let your reputation be built on your competence, your reliability, and your ability to remain above the fray of workplace politics. However, trying to explain or justify your personal structure to others often invites unhelpful scrutiny. If people know exactly how you manage your time, they may begin to micromanage your output or question why you spend an hour on a task that they believe should take 20 minutes. They might try to impose their own chaotic schedules onto your structured day. Your routine is a highly personalized engine designed to power your unique life. It does not need to be understood or approved by anyone else. As long as your system produces the desired results, the exact mechanics of how you structure your hours should remain a private trade secret. Friendships fade for many reasons, sometimes drifting apart naturally, and other times fracturing over a specific disagreement. When a close bond dissolves, there is a powerful temptation to explain what happened to your remaining social circle, to clarify your position, or to ensure that people know you were not the party at fault. However, publicizing the autopsy of a dead friendship often creates an atmosphere of discomfort and division. It forces mutual acquaintances to navigate an awkward social minefield and makes you appear insecure or vindictive. The most honorable way to handle the end of a friendship is with a quiet, dignified exit. Allow the relationship to recede into the past without a public autopsy, keeping the shared history and the reasons for the separation locked away in absolute privacy. The wisdom of silence is also highly protective when applied to your health, your physical wellness journeys, and your personal medical history. Your body is the most intimate vessel you possess, and its triumphs and struggles are deeply personal matters. When you choose to broadcast every detail of a new fitness regime, a dietary shift, or a medical challenge, you open the window for an avalanche of unsolicited advice, judgment, and pseudoscience. Everyone suddenly becomes an expert on your well-being, offering contradictory opinions on what you should eat, how you should exercise, or how you should manage your health. This external noise can easily cloud your judgment and distract you from the advice of actual professionals and the intuitive signals of your own body. Furthermore, constantly talking about your physical ailments can inadvertently anchor your identity to a state of sickness or struggle. Process your physical healing and growth quietly, allowing your vitality and energy to be the ultimate testament to your self-care. If you constantly announce your moral choices, whether it is your commitment to sustainability, your refusal to engage in gossip, or your strict adherence to honesty, you create an unspoken barrier of self-righteousness. People will naturally begin to feel judged in your presence, and they will subconsciously look for any small flaw or contradiction in your behavior to bring you down to their level. True moral authority is never proclaimed, it is felt. When you simply live by your principles without demanding that others acknowledge your goodness, your quiet example carries an immense, transformative weight that inspires people far more than any lecture ever could. They may spread false narratives about you or misinterpret your intentions in the worst possible way. The natural, reactive human instinct is to launch a fierce public defense, to argue your case, and to try frantically to convince them of your true nature. Yet, engaging in this dynamic is an immense waste of your precious life force. People who are determined to see you in a negative light will weaponize your explanations as further proof of your guilt or insecurity. The most powerful response to unfounded criticism is a wall of absolute, unbothered silence. When you refuse to validate a false narrative with a reaction, you leave the critic holding their own poison. Your character will always outlast a lie, provided you do not lower yourself to fight in the mud. When you are exposed to a new concept, a complex philosophical idea, or a fresh perspective on world events, your mind needs time to digest, analyze, and test that information against your existing knowledge. In a fast-paced world, there is an intense pressure to have an immediate, public stance on every developing issue. We are expected to post our opinions the moment a news story breaks. However, rushing to declare an unrefined opinion locks you into a position before you have truly understood its depth or its consequences. You become an advocate for a thought you haven't fully processed, simply because you voiced it aloud. Give yourself the luxury of intellectual patience. Read deeply, think critically, and allow your worldview to develop in the quiet safety of your own mind before you ever consider sharing it with the public sphere. This patient containment is also a foundational element of true emotional maturity when handling sudden waves of inspiration or radical life shifts. We have all experienced moments where a sudden realization hits us, and we feel an overwhelming urge to completely change our lives on the spot. We want to quit our jobs, sell our belongings, or move to a new country based on a flash of insight. While these intuitive sparks are incredibly valuable, they must be given time to cool before they are acted upon or spoken about. If you announce your radical new life direction to the world during the initial high of inspiration, you will inevitably face a wave of skepticism from well-meaning loved ones who are shocked by your sudden pivot. Their practical concerns can easily extinguish the genuine wisdom within your inspiration. Keep your radical insights private for a few weeks. Let the initial emotional high subside, and look at the idea with a calm, analytical mind. If the wisdom remains, once the excitement has cooled, you can begin to execute the plan quietly, step by step. Discovering a sudden source of income, receiving a large inheritance, or experiencing an incredibly lucky break can feel like an experience you want to share with the world in a celebration of gratitude. However, human nature is highly susceptible to envy, even among those who genuinely love you. When you broadcast a major financial stroke of luck, it can create a subtle, unconscious resentment in those who are currently working incredibly hard just to make ends meet. They may begin to view your subsequent achievements as the result of luck rather than your actual effort and dedication. It can also attract opportunists who view your good fortune as something they are entitled to share. Celebrate your blessings quietly within your immediate household. Use the resource wisely to secure your future and let your external life remain steady, humble, and unpretentious. Furthermore, the exact methods you use to protect your mental health and emotional well-being should be guarded with great care. Whether you see a therapist, practice specific cognitive behavioral techniques, use journaling as a form of catharsis, or engage in quiet retreats to manage stress, these are your private emotional anchor points. Sharing the explicit details of your psychological healing journey can open you up to unhelpful interpretations from individuals who do not understand the complexities of mental wellness. They might use your admitted coping mechanisms to question your stability during high-stakes situations at work or within your family. Your healing is an intimate contract between you and your inner self. You do not owe anyone an explanation of how you maintain your sanity and your peace of mind in a chaotic world. Because this vision is so vast and comprehensive, it can easily sound unrealistic, arrogant, or delusional to a casual observer. If you share your 50-year vision with someone who is living day to day, their lack of comprehension can feel like a cold splash of water on your deepest dreams. Your ultimate vision is too sacred to be tossed into casual conversation. It should be an internal compass that you consult in moments of solitude, a silent blueprint that guides your hands as you build your life brick by brick away from the gaze of the world. The strength that is forged in the silence of self-containment is an unshakable force that cannot be broken by the shifting winds of public opinion. You begin to move through the world with a calm, centered gravity, anchored by the knowledge that your most valuable assets, your deepest truths, and your grandest plans are safely protected within the fortress of your own mind. Think about the sheer relief of no longer needing to manage a public image or defend your personal choices to an audience that is barely paying attention. When you stop feeding the insatiable demand for personal information, you reclaim a massive amount of cognitive energy that can be channeled directly into your growth, your creativity, and your relationships. You are no longer living your life to prove a point to onlookers. You are living your life to fulfill your own potential. This internal shift is the true meaning of personal sovereignty. It is the realization that your life belongs entirely to you, and you are under no obligation to make it transparent for the entertainment or approval of the collective. When you achieve a small victory, savor the satisfaction completely within yourself before you feel the urge to tell a friend. When you face a setback, process the initial frustration privately before you look for someone to vent to. These small daily choices, to choose silence over noise, build an internal reservoir of power that will sustain you through the most challenging seasons of your life. You become a person of deep substance, someone whose inner world is far larger and more beautiful than the version they show to the street. You can hold space for a friend, a partner, or a colleague with an authentic focus that is rare in our distracted society. Because you do not need to redirect the conversation to your own achievements, your own struggles, or your own opinions, your presence becomes a safe harbor for those who are weary of the constant noise. Your quietness becomes a gift to a world that is desperate for genuine connection, showing that true strength lies not in how much you reveal, but in how deeply you can hold your ground. When the time is right, the results of your silent labor will become visible to all, manifesting as a life of profound stability, authentic success, and unshakable peace. You will have built a masterpiece, not by shouting from the rooftops, but by laid bricks in the quiet hours of the morning, protected by the elegant shield of strategic silence. The true measure of this silent strength is revealed in how you handle your personal victories and the moments when you outgrow your current environment. As you apply these principles of primacy and emotional discipline, you will naturally begin to elevate. Your mind will become sharper, your focus more absolute, and your life will start to yield the tangible fruits of your quiet labor. You might find yourself securing a higher position, accumulating financial stability, or achieving a level of peace that others around you are still struggling to find. During these seasons of breakthrough, the temptation to look back at those who doubted you and showcase your success can be incredibly strong. The ego craves that moment of vindication, the opportunity to say, "Look at what I have done without you." Yet, true elevation requires you to leave that craving behind. Bragging about your growth to people who are still stuck in the same place only breeds resentment and creates unnecessary friction. It signals that your success is still tied to their opinion of you. When you truly outgrow a situation or a social circle, you do not need to announce it. You simply move forward with grace, keeping your growth quiet and allowing your new reality to exist without the need for their validation. This quiet transition is particularly important when navigating changes in your deep personal values and belief systems. Throughout your life, you will experience internal shifts that completely alter how you view the world, morality, or your purpose. You might adopt a new spiritual practice, change your stance on major societal issues, or completely redefine what success means to you. It is a common mistake to immediately try to drag your family, friends, or partner along on this intellectual journey. When you loudly declare your new beliefs and expect everyone around you to instantly align with your fresh perspective, you create an atmosphere of alienation. People feel judged for remaining where they are, and they will instinctively push back against your new worldview. Your inner transformation is an intimate, sacred process that belongs entirely to you. Live your truth quietly. Let the positive changes in your patience, your kindness, and your resilience be the only evidence of your new philosophy. If your path is truly valid, its reflection in your daily behavior will be far more convincing than any theological or philosophical debate. Whether you are navigating the corporate ladder, building an independent enterprise, or engaging in a highly competitive field like athletics or the arts, your unique strategy is your most valuable asset. It is the specific combination of your insights, your timing, and your preparation that gives you an edge. When you casually discuss your methodology or reveal the next major step in your plan, you are giving away your competitive advantage for the price of a fleeting conversation. There are always individuals who prefer to copy the blueprints of others rather than do the hard work of creating their own. By maintaining an absolute lockdown on your operational details, you ensure that by the time others realize what you are doing, you have already executed the plan and secured your position. Let your methods remain a mystery, and let the world only witness the final, flawless execution of your vision. This brings us to the profound necessity of keeping your personal boundaries unadvertised. There is a common misconception today that to have strong boundaries, you must constantly state them out loud to everyone you meet. People frequently announce what they will and will not tolerate, creating a rigid and defensive aura before any interaction has even taken place. However, broadcasting your boundaries often gives manipulative people a direct roadmap of your vulnerabilities. It tells them exactly where your lines are drawn, allowing them to test those boundaries subtly and find clever ways around them. True boundaries are not spoken. They are enforced through action. You do not need to lecture someone about how they should respect your time. You simply walk away or end the meeting when they are late. You do not need to warn someone about how they speak to you. You quietly remove yourself from the conversation the moment the tone becomes disrespectful. When your boundaries are a natural, silent extension of your self-worth, they become an invisible, impenetrable shield that requires no explanation. There is a subtle temptation to romanticize this struggle, to share the stories of your exhaustion and sacrifice so that people will appreciate how hard you are working. Yet, when you constantly talk about your sacrifices, you are unconsciously begging for pity or applause. You are looking for an external reward for doing what is simply required to achieve your goals. Keeping your sacrifices private preserves the purity of your effort. It builds a rare form of internal grit, a stoic resilience that knows the true value of the work is found in the results, not in the sympathy of the onlookers. When you stand on the podium of your achievements, the world does not need to see the scars of the climb. They only need to see that you had the strength to make it to the top. In a hyper-connected world, even the act of resting has become performative. People post photographs of their quiet weekends, their meditation setups, and their digital detoxes, ironically using a digital medium to showcase their separation from the noise. When you publicize your rest, you invite the world into your sanctuary, destroying the very peace you are trying to cultivate. Your moments of recovery, your quiet walks in nature, your reading hours, and your deep sleep are the sacred spaces where your soul repairs itself. Protect these moments from the glare of social validation. Let your rejuvenation happen in total privacy, so that when you step back into the world, you return with a genuine, unforced energy that can only be cultivated in true solitude. You begin to notice a deep, steady calmness settling over your mind. replacing the frantic anxiety that comes from constantly monitoring how your life is being perceived by others. You are no longer trapped in the exhausting cycle of sharing, waiting for reactions, and defending your choices. Your life becomes an authentic experience lived entirely in the present moment, rather than a curated story designed for an external audience. This is the ultimate form of self-possession. You become the sole custodian of your thoughts, your dreams, and your experiences, anchoring your identity in the unshakable truth of who you are when no one is watching. By choosing to lock away these critical areas of your life, your grand ambitions, your financial status, your domestic challenges, your good deeds, and your deep vulnerabilities, you build a fortress around your peace of mind. You create a sacred, protected space where your potential can mature into an undeniable force, entirely untouched by the jealousy, doubt, or chaos of the external world. Remember that you owe the world your excellence, your kindness, and your unique contributions, but you do not owe them your transparency. Your life is a beautiful, intricate masterpiece that is meant to be lived with dignity, depth, and purpose. Let the noisy world continue its endless chatter, broadcasting every passing thought and trivial detail to anyone who will listen. Choose a higher, more elegant path. Walk forward into your future with a quiet confidence, a steady heart, and a sharp focus, secure in the knowledge that your greatest treasures are safely guarded within the silent sanctuary of your soul. Let your results be your only announcement, your character your only defense, and your unshakable peace your greatest victory.